Hello everyone, my name is Sarafi and I'm happy to meet you all. Today, my goal is to go over my Banlist predictions for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links in August 2023. The meta has not changed too much from the last time I made one of these videos. We have Odd Eyes and Orcust still showing a significant grip on the meta, with the addition of Speedroids, which was already kind of growing in popularity when I made the video, becoming a more dominant force as the deck got refined. Rokkets aren't as good as they used to be. They are still one of the decks that you see a lot of, but significantly less of, especially in the World Championship Series. I was not expecting Rokkets to be as quiet as they were. Sulfur Cords are gone. Destiny Hero got a skill which makes them extremely interesting to play, and with the addition of both Destiny Hero Dystopia and Extra Hero Wonder Driver, we are seeing Destiny Hero succeed in the meta. Pure Orcust has adapted to the ban list, and Trickstars got a significant buff with the addition of Holly Angel Trick, so Trickstars are seeing a lot more play as well. There are two Tier 1 decks right now, Speedroids and the Orcust version of Odd Eyes. Speedroids are extremely dangerous because they are able to consistently build a negate or a board breaker like Speedroid Kite Drake without using their normal summon. This means that if you commit too many resources to stopping their Terror Top into Take Tomborg into the skill to get a Synchro 8 outplay, you will run out of options to deal with the double yo-yo that follows up. But if you leave the Synchro 8 play alone to try and use more of like an AoE card like Needle Sealing, when your opponent commits more of their resources, then you risk running into a situation where you are simply overwhelmed by the amount of Synchro monsters on the board. Meanwhile, Odd Eyes Orcust is able to swarm the board far too consistently. They are always able to Pendulum summon on the first turn unless they go against Rokkets, and it does not require nearly as many cards in their opening hand. You do have to have 2 Pendulum Scales, but we still have Pendulum Call. It is at 3, but people just have that card. They are able to draw it. They do have plenty of Pendulum cards in the deck as well, and as long as they have at least one Orcust monster, they can very easily go into a full combo that has both a powerful Xyz as well as Dingirsu, extra card draw, back row, and the board is protected by Dingirsu's effect. It's a very difficult play to deal with. In particular, Orcust, while a powerful deck, was never a swarm deck. You always had to deal with 1 or 2 monsters on the board, all versions of Orcust. Even in the TCG, it was a deck that was very good at building a sturdy board, but not a wide board. Pendulum summoning going together with Orcust has made the deck so powerful that it really doesn't feel like it's a fair matchup for anyone. The pure version of Orcust is now using the 3 effects skill to gain 2600 life points by sending World Legacy World Wand to the graveyard with Nightmare, targeting Galatea to increase its attack by 800. Orcust is already the best deck in the game when it comes to playing a long game, and giving them additional longevity in the form of free life points just makes them so difficult to actually close the game out, and if you can't close the game out, they will come back every single turn. Meanwhile, Trickstars are using Holly Angel Trick to great effect. Trickstar Crimson Heart allowing you to instantly draw 2 cards is significant. Light Stage is a very good card in Duel Links, and the fact that you can't run Terraforming because they're both limit 1 doesn't matter as much for Light Stage as it does for something like Orchestrated Babel, because you have Trickstar Candina, which you can run at 3 of, and you just search Light Stage off of Candina. Light Stage draws you an extra card like Lycoris, and you are off to the races. Destiny Effect is a very, very powerful consistency skill. Destiny Hero Malicious is at 2 for a very good reason in Master Duel, in the TCG, and in the OCG. Giving us access to a 3rd and 4th Malicious is very powerful. I understand that a pure Destiny Hero list cannot use Malicious the way it's intended because they do not have access to Vision Hero Ferris. And it is interesting to say that, well, can pure Destiny Heroes be good? I don't necessarily think that there's an intention for pure Destiny Heroes to be good, because Vision Heroes are also Astro Phoenix's cards, so they're just his cards from the manga. But if you want to build like an anime-style Astro deck, which I think that's what they're going for, having Malicious in the graveyard to start is kind of necessary, but this still feels like it's too much. We'll talk about that. Rokkets will continue to be in the game, as long as Odd Eyes is relevant, but they are also able to access a wide range of back row because they can draw monsters from their deck so consistently. The most recent tournament-topping deck had 26 cards, and they were almost all spells and traps. So there's room for improvement with Rokkets. Okay, let's talk about nerfs. To understand what a nerf should be, and what I think a nerf will be, we need to understand what the problem with each deck is. So the issue with Speedroids is not their ability to build a board, and it's not the Foolish. The Foolish is it helps them build the board more consistently, but it's a synchro deck. They should be able to build the board somewhat consistently, because if they don't, then they don't do anything. The problem is that they have card draw and the rest of their deck while only using one card from their hand. The best way to nerf Speedroids would be to give them a meaningful limit 2, pair with the limit 2 on double yo-yo. The most impactful nerf, which would actually make the deck significantly worse and allow you to easily counter it, would be to put Forbidden Lance to 2. If you put Forbidden Lance to 2, double yo-yo is already at 2. Speedroids will play double yo-yo. They will not cut one double yo-yo to run one Forbidden Lance. They will play 2 double yo-yo, and they will run 0 Forbidden Lance. And when you don't have Forbidden Lance, then every other deck can counter Speedroids in the same way they counter every other deck. So you don't need special tech to deal with Speedroids. You can use the cards that you're already using to deal with Orcust or Odd Eyes to remove the Speedroid monsters during their crucial breakpoints. The easiest way to exploit Speedroids is to Book of Moon or Compulsory Evacuation Device their Clearwing Synchro Dragon, because then they can't activate the skill to summon Speedroid Red Eye dice from their deck or their graveyard. This means that their double yo-yo play is going to be worse, because now they don't have Red Eye dice in their graveyard, and it allows you to basically 2-for-1 your opponent, because you've removed both the tuner and the non-tuner from the game by targeting the Synchro monster. Clearwing Synchro Dragon is necessary for the skill to function, so people are going to make it, but it has no inherent protections against spell and traps on its own. Speedroids have been using Forbidden Lance to try and cover that weakness, but once you take Forbidden Lance away from them, that clear exploitable weakness becomes the way that you make Speedroids lose games, and you will see Speedroids drop consistently and considerably if you are able to get rid of the Forbidden Lance protection. But Konami's not going to do that, because Forbidden Lance is not a Speedroid card, and putting a card to 2 is much worse than putting it to 3. We have had cards put to 2, like Enemy Controller and Treacherous Trap Hole, but those cards were used for a significantly longer period of time than Forbidden Lance has been. So I do think that Konami is going to shy away from this, even though this is the smartest way to nerf the deck. They will probably put Win the Wind Channeler and Speedroid Taketomborg to 3 each. This will make Terror Top much less often. You do need at least one Taketomborg. I think you're going to run 2 Winds and 1 Taketomborg. That means that you have 1 less Terror Top in the deck. It also means that you are much less likely to open Taketomborg with Terror Top. So you will have to use Terror Top to search your 1 copy of Taketomborg, which means that you will much less often have the double yo-yo, because you didn't necessarily open the double yo-yo, and you can't use Terror Top to search the double yo-yo. So Win and Taketomborg both being at 3 kind of made the double yo-yo nerf not all that relevant, because you had so much access to search in the deck and so many other combo pieces that were at 3 that Terror Top just drew you your double yo-yo regardless. With all 3 of these cards, Terror Top's at 1, Wind Channeler is at 2, Taketomborg is at 1, Yo-Yo is at 2. You are going to see the deck be far brickier. Is that good? No. But that is the way that Konami is going to nerf the deck. Now, I do know that we are getting 2 more drops with the rerun event. The deck is going to look completely different, I'm guessing, by the end of the month, so it's hard for me to predict how this will affect Speedroids, but this is the most likely nerf channel in my opinion. People who say that they're going to nerf the skill are coping. Raging Pendulum. Raging Pendulum should be good, but it should not be getting paired with a generic Link deck. They need to crack down on the genericness of this skill by adding more restrictions. So let's just keep things simple. Your deck, only the main deck, can contain Pendulum monsters, and your extra deck can only contain Xyz monsters. So just Pendulum monsters in the deck. They can use Triple D monsters, you can use Abyss Actors, you can use Dynamist. Have fun. But only Pendulum monsters. And your extra deck contains only Xyz monsters. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't run Performapal Friend Donkey. That's fine. People aren't doing that anymore anyway. Yes, Yu-Gi-Oh does have access to Synchro and Fusion monsters as well, but I actually think that Konami might be worried that this skill is so powerful that if they release Fusion and Synchro skills for Yu, that those will get passed up. You are seeing people play Synchro monsters for Yu-Gi in the Raging Pendulum list when Yu-Gi has another skill specifically for Synchro summoning. So, unless they crack down on this skill and make it an Xyz-focused skill, they run the risk of people just ignoring any skills and any work they put into making a Fusion or a Synchro skill for Yu-Gi. I think Konami doesn't want that, so they'll probably just put it to Xyz, which will be good. Orcust is still powerful, and I don't have a problem with Orcust being good because the cards themselves are what make the deck so good. They are not carried by a skill typically. The deck is very consistent with 20 cards, and that is kind of a problem. But it's not so much of a problem that I think it needs to be just completely gutted. What I want to see is I want to see fewer abuse cases. So I think 3 effects should only be usable if you have a Code Talker or a Firewall monster in your extra monster zone. Just stop it. There are too many people who are using this skill outside of Playmaker's decks. We should do the same thing with the Soul Burner and Trickstar decks. We changed the skills to make them more appealing so people would start playing Salamangrates with Soul Burner and Trickstars with Blue Angel. I'm not saying that Code Talkers don't see play with Playmaker, but we should see more skills and more focus on Code Talkers for Playmaker. So just limit this skill to his deck. That way, if it shows up, it's for a deck that is, that is Playmaker's. We should see Playmaker playing his own card. That's kind of something that they should strive for. A determination to fight. Again, Orcust is extremely good, and I think the main reason people don't play that deck more often is just because of how expensive it is. I like that Orcust is so powerful, but at the same time, the skill does so much. It gives you so many cards, and those cards, a lot of them are going to the graveyard, they're going in your hand. There are cards that we don't even have in the game yet being added. The skill gives you so much of a board swing and nuke, and it's so brain-dead easy to use that I think there should be a bigger emphasis placed on the survival of this deck. It's already been nerfed. The deck has already gotten nerfed in the past, so don't pretend like Gandora is not a powerful deck. What we should do is we should take a page out of Solomon's book and say, for this DM character who has such a good skill for a main deck monster, just cut the extra deck out. Just say, no monsters in the extra deck. There aren't any Gandora monsters in the extra deck. There's no cards that Yugi would use in the extra deck. People are playing this with Gear Gigant X because they want to use the gadgets for something, but tough shit. I'm sorry that you have to play Yugi's cards and Yugi's cards are useless. The skill is killing people. So, no, I don't think that you should be able to Xyz into Gear Gigant X and draw Kiteroid, which is not a card in the game. Just survive the way that everyone else survives, and then in a couple turns, you just win the game anyway. And this way, people won't play with Orcust, because they can't get Galatea or Dingirsu. Trickstars is the deck that I think is the least likely to get nerfed, but I didn't see the Goki nerfs coming either. So, it wouldn't surprise me if Konami decides to nerf Trickstars, because, they're not as free to play as Gokis are. But the deck is kind of old, and they probably have ideas for what they want to do with Reigns moving forward, and they probably don't want too many linked decks in the meta at the same time, I'm guessing. The biggest problem with Trickstars is their ability to cheese Festival's Grave Effect. I talked about this in the last video. So, if you want to make Trickstars worse, or at least feel better to play against, maybe you should put Festival, Dark Hole, and Needle Sealing to 3. So that play Festival, you don't get to Needle Sealing, you don't get to Dark Hole. Like it's a cool protection effect. You guys should use your protection effect, but not yourself. Don't use it to turn your Dark Hole into a Raigeki. It's so toxic and stupid. Just use it to protect your monster from being destroyed in battle or being destroyed by a card effect. Why does it have to be that you can blow the field up during your opponent's turn and not have any negative consequences to your side? That just seems ridiculous. Destiny effect is consistent, but Destiny Heroes as a pure deck do need it. At present, the skill is too good because of its ability to skirt the harsh restrictions of the deck. In particular, I have a real problem, and a lot of people have a real problem with Liquid Soldier. Liquid Soldier is just, you can run Reinforcement Army, so it's not that big of a deal to not have Stratos, and Liquid Soldier just turns the game around so much because you draw 2, you discard 1, and then you get Miracle Fusion off of Sunrise, and then you can play Miracle Fusion and fuse Liquid Soldier again. So Liquid Soldier is 2 materials, and really, we already have a grave recycling effect with Wonder Driver that's supposed to make up for the fact that you're using polymerization. Destiny Heroes do not have access to Sunrise for a reason, and Sunrise is not a Destiny Hero monster. So this doesn't need to be this consistent and powerful. We shouldn't have a situation where you can go completely off and summon 4 fusion monsters at the same time because you happen to draw Liquid Soldier. So, I would change the skill to just say that your main deck can contain no monsters except Destiny Hero monsters. I don't think that letting them have monsters that aren't Destiny Heroes, but just being unable to summon them is good enough. You should just say, no, you just can't. No monsters other than Destiny Heroes. And then your extra deck can only contain Destiny Hero, Extra Hero, and Vision Hero monsters. I understand that it's awkward to say that they can't contain monsters except from these 3 archetypes. Weird, especially if you translate it in multiple languages. I think that's kind of the problem. They are very common with archetype restrictions if the archetype is easy to understand and spelled out, but for characters like Jaden and Yuya and Yuma, where they just use so many different hodgepodge cards, It's kind of hard to make an anime restricted deck, but you should do it. You should not be saying that people can play Link monsters. You should not be saying that people can play elemental hero monsters. You should not be saying that people can play Beatrice in this deck. It should be for Asterisk cards. I understand that you can't just make it dark hero monsters, which would be really nice because Extra Hero Wonder Driver is a light monster, but then just go the distance. Destiny Hero, Extra Hero, Vision Hero. Boom. That also means that you can't play Masked Heroes, but Masked Heroes aren't Asterisk cards anyway. Rokkets, the easiest way to fix this is to just increase the requirement for the skill. Make them run 12. We have more Rokkets now. Rokkets have already shown that with the skill they're able to get away with a larger than 20 card deck. Forcing the opponents to run more monsters makes the deck less consistent and makes them open back row less often. Rokkets do have the ability to special summon from the deck very frequently, but they don't have that much generic card draw. So even if you are able to flood your board, draw 4 cards from your deck with Quick Launch and End Phase special summons, that doesn't put removal in your hand. So you're still only going to be drawing 1 card per turn. And that card might be a monster or it might be a spell and trap. So the more monsters you force into the opponent's opening hand, first of all, the better it is for the skill, because you want to be able to special summon 2 monsters from your hand with the skill. That's the point of the skill. And it also means there's going to be less back row for your opponent to try and remove stuff. So that's good because the point of the skill is to make your openers more consistent with monster effects. If you're able to get a card like Evil Swarm Nightmare or Void Ogre Dragon on the field, why do you also need to be able to have Dragon's Mirror or Compulsory Evacuation Device? You don't. So just cut back on the number of spells and traps that these people can open, and you will have a more fun and interesting deck that is also weaker. And that's it. Thank you very much for joining me, guys. This is Sarafi. I was thrilled to have you all with me.